So hi, I'm Michelle Duterte and I am here to explain some of the advantages of globalization. So first is easy to communicate throughout the boundaries. So minsan niya is na you clearly communicate your needs and wants, or you prioritize your self-care. Next is easier to travel. So next is cultural interchange. Cultural From the word cultural means analysis, relating to a particular society and its ideas, customs, and art. So when we talk about interchange man, minsan niya is two or more people exchange things with each other. So cultural interchange has two aspects. One is the aspects of obtaining the understanding of other nations about the way of thinking, and the next is the manner of living and the arts of a country through the introduction and diffusion of its own culture. So, the last ng advantages of globalization is international trade is the exchange of capital goods and services across the international borders or territories because there is a need or want of goods and services. So this is the international trade.
Of globalization and advantage and disadvantage. So the first one is, what is globalization? So the globalization is the term used to explain the increasing real, reliance on the world, culture and population caused by cross-border commerce in goods and services and courses of financing and information. Countries have deployed economic partnerships to promote these cross-border movements. And simple words, globalization is how people and assets flow smoothly across countries. And it is an economic notion where the integration of trade and investments with favor obstacles hindering the flow of commodities. So let's talk about the disadvantages and advantages of globalization. So the first one is advantages. So what is the advantages of globalization? So the advantages of globalization is, with the implement of globalization, technology has been altered to a great extent and paved the way for overall developments. Globalization has helped provide better services to the people worldwide and increase the GDP rate. And owing to globalization, governments have been able to help economic growth and aid the advancement of infrastructure. Countries around the world now have access to the trade and commerce worldwide with affordable commodities rate. So the second one is disadvantages of globalization. So the disadvantages of globalization is can raise the problem of inequality everywhere in the world by increasing specialization, which result in poverty. Globalization can increase the unemployment rate since it demands highly skilled work at a lower price. Over the years, trade imbalance has increased in developed countries by competition in the market due to globalization. Globalization favors industrialization that sometimes harms the environment. Overall economic growth in such developing countries may be slowed due to globalization.
Disadvantage of globalization. Money problems can easily spread. Money problems can easily spread. Money is that its values does not remain constant, which creates instability in the economy. Too much of money reduces its value and cause inflation. The mix of culture can lead to the loss of national identity. The mix of culture can lead to the loss of national identity. Culture is the defining picture of a person's identity, contributing to how they see themselves and the groups with which they identify. Small companies can compete with the multinationals. Small companies can compete with the multinationals that compete simply by selling standardized products at lower cost. Larger businesses may have experts on their team, but those aren't usually the people interacting with the customer and clients. The gap between the poor and rich increases. The, the gap between the poor and the richest increases indeed, while over the last 2 decades, global inequalities between countries have declined. Income inequality has increased with most countries. Globalization can increase wage inequality in a relatively rich country by increasing the imports of manufacturing for export in high-tech firms that use more high-skilled labor.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rona Fimari Mentalaba, and for today, I will give some example of disadvantages of globalization. So I have here unequal economic growth. Next is lack of local businesses, increases potential global recessions, causes job displacements, delocalization creates unemployment in developed countries, non-controlled circulation of money, no ethics. Big companies are the only winners, and lastly is the exploitation of the workers in developing countries. So, those are the disadvantages of globalization.